We're now going to have a presentation from the AEDC, Anchor Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Bill Kopp will be doing the presentation, and we'll go around and do introductions. Juan Wilson is the chair of that board, and we're very pleased to have you here with us this morning, Juan, as well. So again, if we could start with you, Paul.
Paul Holman, Anchorage Assembly.
W.O.C. Anderson.
Dick Train Assembly.
Patrick Flynn Assembly.
Bernie Hall, Assembly.
Chris Birch.
Ron Wilson, the chair of the AEDC board.
I'm Chris Brown with AT&T. I'm vice chair 2010 and will be chair 2011.
And Bill Pop.
Bill, we're going to move directly into this, so the floor is yours. We'll have you go through your entire presentation as we did with ACDB and have questions at the end. So,
Thank you, Ernie. First of all, thank you all for having us here this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about AEDC, what we're doing and what we're planning on doing in the coming year. And again, we deeply appreciate the support of the municipality and what you provide us. I want to give a little context for where our organization comes from, and that is what our focus is, which is economic development. And there's a lot of different definitions out there on economic development. It's all generally in the eye of the beholder, but for our purposes, we try to adhere to accepted professional practices. And the definition that we have up on the screen is the one that's provided by the International Economic Development Council, of which we're a member, and which is probably the most recognized certifying body in the world as a global organization with the largest number of members in any economic development-oriented organization. And we focus in particular on the last part of the definition, which is the fact that our purpose is to create economic growth and to provide a stable tax base through the growth of jobs. People working, it helps to diversify the tax base, it helps to grow the tax base, and that's our ultimate focus, is to put together all the elements that's going to make for a favorable environment to grow jobs. So we're going to try and demonstrate what we've been doing on that over the last year and a half, and then give you a sense of where we're headed in the next year and beyond as far as our focus as an organization. Just some fast organizational facts. We are a creation of the municipality of Anchorage in the mid-1980s. We were created out of the mayor's office in 1987. We were spun off as a private 501c6 membership organization incorporated in late 1989. We have nearly 200 members, between the private sector taking up the vast majority of that, nearly 190 members, with the remainder being sister organizations and entities such as the municipality of Anchorage. You can see we've got a pretty big board. Quorum can be fun, trying to get that many people in the room at the same time, but it's a very robust group, very busy group, and a very invested group in terms of their membership in our organization. We have a small staff of 6. We have a budget that we're projecting next year where we're going to spend just a hair over $1 million, which is down from past years. We've seen the same revenue challenges that many other organizations have faced in Anchorage, and we have sized accordingly. Our revenue sources, you can see 40% from our members. Events and programs we have really focused on over the last couple of years, and that's helped to generate a nice spike in revenues, both not only from events, we do a couple, but also from the fee-for-service contracts that we've been developing for between our organization and others, where we're doing some specific targeted work related to our overall efforts to grow the Anchorage economy. And then, of course, municipal funding accounts for about 1 out of 4 of our dollars. That is down from where it was just a couple of years ago when it was closer to about 35% of our overall budget. And then finally, the state kicks in a small percentage too. So we've got 3 areas of core service, and I just want to recap those for you very quickly. First and foremost, economic reporting and analysis. We try to provide good tools for local businesses and national businesses to gauge where our economy is and where it's headed, and to have good information about what it is what it means to do business in Anchorage. You can see a list of our recurring reports. We've got several indicators that are both current as well as projections. We also try to put a little color around that with the survey work that we do with the business community, trying to gauge attitudes within the business community so that they don't feel like they're in a vacuum, and so that the public at large can get a sense of where business thinks things are headed. We also try to look a little further down the pipe, focused on resource extraction. Our economy is based on resource extraction, oil and gas and mining, fish. It's all very important, and it all generates basically most of the economic activity that takes place in our state. And then, of course, good information about what's going on in the broader economy through our newsletters and our e-news bulletin. We've also done some special projects with the Kodiak Rapid Launch Facilities, the economic benefits study that did focus on benefits to Anchorage if they're able to elevate their facility to a 3 to 4 year launch cycle. The study that we did for the municipality of Anchorage, the Anchorage Industrial Land Use Study, which was brought to the Assembly, Chairman Osiander at the time was one of the key receivers of that study, and has been using it obviously as has the rest of the Assembly and the administration in regards to the Title 21 discussions related to commercial and industrial land use. And then for the Alaska Natural Gas Development Authority, we commissioned a study on chemical industry opportunities in the Cook Inlet region as related to their work in terms of bringing a natural gas pipeline to Cook Inlet and the opportunities that might exist there for something beyond just the consumption of natural gas for heating and power generation purposes. So we really do focus on trying to bring good quality work forward that is available. We also did provide quite a bit of support for the mayor's, the administration's 6-year economic analysis and forecast within their budget document too. So we were partners in that. Business recruitment and expansion, we work on that quite a bit. We work with businesses all over the United States as well as here in Anchorage in the South Central region, trying to provide support for their needs, whether it's information, whether it's connections, trying to put them together with the opportunities that they require to be able to grow and succeed or to become established. That can range anywhere from, we did some work, quite a bit of work, and continue to work with the folks at Alaska Distillery, the folks who you've seen all the media on smoked salmon flavored vodka. We did quite a bit of work to help them get their media message prepared, and it was incredible how it went viral once they launched it. That was one piece where we did help to provide some feedback, and we continue to work with them in terms of overcoming certain issues. We have a water company locally that we're working with that's looking to export a gourmet version of Alaska water. You'll see a lot more about that in the not too distant future. We also work with companies that are looking at Anchorage. We focus on quite a bit of outreach, which I'll talk about in a minute, and it does attract companies to our organization. We can help to get them on the ground and understanding the business climate, the political environment that they're working within here in the Anchorage area in the South Central region, and that has been a big help. We've started to attract companies that are looking to Alaska for opportunities. We had an aviation-related company, light manufacturing, that we just provided an opportunity to meet with several companies that they were interested in having a conversation with about partnering. That hasn't borne fruit yet, but it did generate quite a bit of dialogue between those companies and the local companies in this out-of-state business that's looking at the local area. AEDC has also started to try and do a better job of putting our competitive position in the global marketplace into perspective. And when you look at the fact that we're competing against over 4,000 economic development organizations just across the United States and Canada, all out there very hungry to attract whatever companies they can, whatever investment that they can, as well as trying to get the needed capital to grow their existing businesses. That's a pretty ferocious environment to be operating within right now, given the state of the national and global economy. And so we've started to baseline work to try and put Anchorage's economy into perspective from a competitive point of view. We did an incentives analysis where we compared Anchorage to 5 cities and Alaska to 5 states to try and put that into perspective. It's our first shot at this. We've provided a copy of the work in the packets that we've given you. We think it's the start of an overall dialogue that we need to have as a community and as a state to start figuring out where targeted incentives may be appropriate. I can't tell you what they are yet because we've got a lot of work to do yet, but we think that it's important to have this discussion. Just looking at the anecdotal success of the film industry and the amount of money that's being spent in Anchorage right now, as well as across the state, and the number of productions that are in the pipe getting ready to land in the state over the next couple of years, based on a $100 million transferable tax credit incentive. Very well thought out, great legislative support, and it's bearing fruit. There's a lot of work to be done to nurture that and to make it into a more permanent part of our economy, but it's a great initial success. We've also worked to, again, support the Cook Inlet in regards to natural gas-based industries. We continue to work on that. And then we also have an established relationship with the Juneau Economic Development Council, who is the Alaska and actually Northwest region outlet for government technology transfer under the Springboard program. This is an opportunity for business to reach into the government R&D sector, whether it's military or other government agencies, and say, hey, I need a new kind of widget that is capable of this. Do you have anything? And by being able to do that, if the government does have something that they're willing to transfer, we can provide our local-based companies with opportunities to be more competitive on a national and international level. In fact, getting a jump on competitors elsewhere in the country. We've worked with a number of organizations over the last 8 months since we took this on, and we're renewing that relationship going into the coming year. One of the biggest issues that we find in dealing with out-of-state businesses is the incredible lack of understanding of what's going on in Alaska. It is a very interesting, skewed perspective. We're cold, we're dark most of the time. We don't have any kind of real cultural scene. We don't have an environment that young professionals would want to move to, unless they were rugged individualists who were ready to go out and rough it. And we're working on a daily basis to try and dispel those myths and commonly held beliefs and bring it down to reality and to demonstrate that we are a competitive international city that can offer great opportunities for companies to take a look at and for young professionals to come move here and thrive within. And so we're constantly out there working through the national and international business media, gaining earned media so that we can take our small $75,000 public relations budget and work that very aggressively to generate literally millions of dollars worth of earned media in national and international press. We also focus very hard on our website through our communications plan and our marketing efforts. We have really upgraded our website. We continue to work on it, chip away, and try and make it more and more competitive. Because in the world of business and site selection, it's no longer the phone call or the fax or the letter or the personal meeting that gets the business uses to figure out where they might want to make that next investment. It's online. The old process was a very cumbersome process of 6 months in length that could only maybe profile a couple of dozen communities, and it would be very expensive because most of the time and effort was spent on flying there, doing meetings, gathering up information, bringing it back, and hoping for the best that at the end of the process you'd have 2 or 3 good locations that you could choose from. Now the process measures in weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, and you'll profile a couple of 100 communities, and it's all done online. So you're going to see our website is very focused on meeting the expectations of real estate officials and corporate site selectors who are out there doing this work and are trying to be the most efficient they can be in identifying the next great opportunity for the clients that they represent. So what are we doing in 2011 and beyond? Well, we're going to increase our efforts to engage national site selection firms, and through that process we have engaged the support of the Alaska Industrial Development Export Authority as well as the Anchorage International Airport in some small targeted contract relationships where they're going to contribute modest amounts, about $35,000 in total, that we will leverage with funds from our organization that's going to put our folks in the field in 4 different regions across the United States to meet with site selection firms in their boardrooms, in their offices, and to start building those relationships that we need to establish so that they know that we're a resource that they can come and tap, and to start helping them to better understand what's going on in Anchorage and Alaska so that they start to realize that there are opportunities here that are many and varied. We're also going to be working on trying to develop at least one familiarization trip where we take our top 4 to 6 prospect companies as far as site selection firms and bringing them here for just a few days in a very short, sharp introduction on the ground so they can come walk the dirt, kick the tires, and understand what's going on here firsthand. We're also doing webinars, taking advantage of the online opportunities that are out there where we can, as a primer process, get them engaged in having further meetings and discussions with us by giving them a quick hour-long at most online opportunity to understand firsthand what's going on in Anchorage and Alaska. We're also working on expanding our local business assistance through direct and online resources. We continue to look for better ways to serve our local business base because one of the best opportunities you have to grow jobs is with what you already have here. And we're working very aggressively to continue to work with our local businesses. Our doors are open to any business, any entrepreneur. There are services that we don't perform. We are not a startup specialist when it comes to somebody who's got a great idea but no business plan. We have plenty of sister organizations that we help to triage those folks to, and then when they've hit a certain point of maturity in their process, they come back to see us and we help them to connect them with the resources that they need to launch. We're also working to seek opportunities wherever we can to put businesses together with those opportunities, because our best opportunity is to take companies that have gotten past that valley of death of the first 5 years of entrepreneurship and have gotten established, are successful, have a good, stable business model, that we can help to identify new opportunities where they add a few more employees. Every new employee is a win. And we think that's an area that we really want to focus more and more on in the coming years. We'll continue our government technology transfer initiative with JEDC. We'll continue promotion of Anchorage through national and international business media at the same levels that we've been promoting it at. We really feel that we've been very successful working with a local company, Thompson & Company, who's been very solid for us in their New York office and their Anchorage office, and they are now expanding into the California area. So we think we're getting a real bang for our buck working with them. Strategic alignments with our sister organizations are very, very important to us. We're in the final throes of putting together a memorandum of agreement between ACVB and the Anchorage Chamber to start focusing on promoting economic development in the community, to bring the public on board in this process, to get their feedback, but also to help them to understand the importance of economic development and how it is going to shape our future as a community. And we see that first MOA as a building block step towards a broader alignment between the different sister organizations. We've already been doing for the last few years sister organization summits that AEDC has organized, where we've had anywhere from a dozen to a couple of dozen of the local organizations, ranging from the Anchorage Chamber and ACVB to Cook Inlet Housing Authority to the Alaska Process Industry Careers Consortium. Broad range of different organizations, the Eagle River Chamber, have all been involved in these summits where we just get together and compare notes. What are you doing? How do we work together more? How do we not duplicate effort? How do we make sure that we stretch those rare dollars that we all have even further and make sure that we're not duplicating effort? So that's been a very successful process, and I think it's led to this desire to do an even stronger alignment going into the future. And then finally, we're going to be looking at a more targeted role in advocacy for economic development legislation. We've been involved in supporting legislation. Last year, or excuse me, 2 years ago, we did support the film tax legislation, testified on behalf of it, worked very diligently with legislators to make sure that they knew that we strongly supported it. In this last legislative session, we were very strong advocates for the $3 million small business loan program that was a bridge loan program, $50,000 for individuals and $75,000 for joint applicants for bridge loans, for short-term capital, because it's probably one of the biggest challenges business faces right now is access to capital, especially small businesses. Unfortunately, that legislation did not make it on the last day out of Finance Committee and onto the floor for a final vote. But we're hopeful in talks with the administration that that legislation will be resurrected, and we're very supportive of seeing that going forward in this next session. So we'll be working in that direction quite a bit. At this time, I'd like to hand it off to my Vice Chair, Chris Brown, to talk about a vision that the Board of Directors adopted in May that my staff and I are now working very diligently to get organized and get moving. And with that, Chris, if you'd like to talk about the new vision.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah, first, and good morning, and thank you again for giving us time, all of you, Assemblyman. And Chris, thanks for putting Jennifer's name on it, but those of us who live in the hillside know it. Glad to have our representatives here. The process we went through to develop the strategic plan and the strategic direction was actually a real encouraging one. And then, having been in the telecom industry since Bell was calling for Watson, you know, I've been through a number of those, and it was encouraging, one, as a participant, and secondly, the process was well managed, and it reflected to me the place for our business community to come together. In fact, my two competitors, who shall go nameless, were involved as well. And we worked together incredibly well in a, let's do what's good for the city process, and we'll slug it out in the marketplace, but let's do the things that are right for Anchorage. So I think the process itself was most encouraging, and the outcome is one with a goal that was by definition audacious, and that is we didn't want to shoot too low. We believe that by 2025, Anchorage will be the #1 place to live, to work, and to play in the United States. And we think if we don't set a high target, we certainly will fall short of what we can do. The points that are on the chart here list those, if you will, the subtending pieces of that. I can turn to start really easier from here. We clearly see the diversification of the economy as important. We believe that appropriate infrastructure investments, of course, are important as we see the city grow. We believe that healthcare, education, and those things that support workforce development, both in public and private sector, are valuable. And also the energy supplies and energy sources that affect South Central Alaska are vital for all of our futures. So with this in mind, Bill and his very efficient and very small staff have set off to start charting this. As he mentioned, we've also put some tactical measures in there so that the staff and the effectiveness of the board can be measured in some real tangible ways. So that as we go, not only before the municipality, but efforts such as this that we undertake, Bill and his staff and various others undertake with private investors to let them see that their investments in AEDC are worthwhile. AT&T has been a long-time investor, and I've been pleased to hold the seat on the board, actually, that the company has earned through its commitment to AEDC. We do it for a number of reasons. One is that it is a way to develop the community and develop the business environment in which we all live and work. That is to say, if there's not a thriving economy here, then our industry, as many others, doesn't thrive, and to that extent, we're perhaps a little self-serving. That being said, we also think it's the right thing to do for our community. And having moved to Anchorage 7 years ago, I love this place, and I think this is the best place to be. And anything that we can do as a corporation, or that they allow me to do on my own time and from the corporation's time to support that, is a good and valuable use of the small amount of commitment that we make. So we think this objective that we have for 2025 both sets a framework for all of the work to come, but then gives us some tactical things to go forward on. As Bill explained to me the other day, as he discusses with all the sister organizations, the further encouragement we get is that almost every other group that we talk to's objectives and strategies all align and fit in or fit with what we're trying to do. So the good news is that the things that we need to do in Anchorage to develop our community economically are all obvious to most of us, and we now have, as a result of this specific effort, some tactical steps to take and a broad strategy that as we rotate on and off the board, we can continue on in the same direction.
I'd also like to ask Lon Wilson to just say a few words. Lon was the one who shepherded this visioning process as the board chair this year, and has been very important in this process.
Thank you, Bill. I'll keep my comments short, but as Chris had indicated, my company, the Wilson Agency, has been an investor in AEDC for many, many years, for many of the same reasons that Chris mentioned. But I became personally involved on the board about 5 years ago, and for me, this has been a personal exercise. I was born and raised in this town. I've run a company in this town, and I believe in the future of this town. And so I agreed 3 years ago to become involved in the leadership of the organization and assume chair earlier this year, the chair position. I had three basic goals in mind when I decided to become chair earlier this year, and that was A, to redefine the vision of AEDC and to set out a robust goal for our community to really believe in. Second of all, then to realign our resources internally to fit with that vision, and then get our finances in order. And I'm pleased to say that I believe that we will finish this year for the first time in a couple to not be in a deficit funding position, that we're actually balancing our finances and we're being fiscally responsible going forward. But we are a very efficient organization. We believe that at this particular point we want to try to grow our funding because there's a lot of good things that we believe we can do to grow this economy. So with that, we can open up to questions.
Yes, and we'll begin. We've got a few questions here. We're very short on time. Mr. Birch.
I just want to thank you for your presentation. I can say, great, by the way, it looks good. I mean, I like the content and construction of your annual report. I just got an email yesterday. I serve as assembly liaison to the city Anchorage chamber. I just got an email yesterday from the state chamber, and they've got a CNBC, America's Top States for Business. Why is Alaska dead last in the rankings? Find out the Alaska State Chamber lunch October 27th at the Anchorage campus. So I guess, how do we deal with some of these ratings? I mean, and I know everybody's got, I mean, we're coming up in one of the polls, and I guess, are you actively engaged, or, I mean, some of this is very subjective, but I guess, I mean, I intend to be there and intend to, kind of study this and figure out how do we counteract that. But I'd just be interested in your perspective on it.
Well, much to the dismay of my staff, I often engage with the media in regards to these because they're more often as not very flawed when it comes to the data that they equate to Anchorage in particular, but also to Alaska. It's based on projection data as opposed to actual hard numbers on the ground. The CNBC study, though, if anything, I think it's a good opportunity to have a very robust discussion about, starting a very robust discussion about how can Alaska and how can Anchorage be more aggressive in regards to attracting business. And I have my personal problems with the CNBC ranking system. I think a lot of it is very arbitrary and capricious. It is not based on actual numbers on the ground. But having said that, we have our problems and we have our challenges and we need to work on them. I know the other study that you spoke to was the Milken Institute study that referenced the fact that Anchorage was the number eight in the nation out of the 50 states in ranking for jobs and in terms of job security, job growth, job stability. Well, we moved up 32 points from where we were in the previous ranking. But that's not because we were doing a whole bunch better. It's because a whole bunch of states were doing a whole bunch worse. And so I think what it does demonstrate is that for the immediate term, we've been stable. As an overall economy, we've felt some pain. We've all felt it individually, and we've felt it in some portions of the job market. But overall, we've been relatively stable. But that's only a temporary situation to stand on. We can't be satisfied with that. We need to find ways to kickstart things to make sure that we're moving forward and diversifying.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
I'm actually going to take one more question. I apologize. We're at 10 o'clock, the witching hour here. So, Mr. Trainee, you were next up.
Just want to copy your slides. You have the PowerPoint slides on seating. I've got colleagues that aren't here and I want to get it to them.
We'll absolutely get
Right
that
to the clerk.
emailed over
Okay.
as soon as we get back to the office.
Thank you. That's it, Ernie.
Very good. I'll let you know I had questions that were coming from Mr. Flynn, Ms. Johnson, and Mr. Honeman, so you might try to corner them a little bit here real quick and get those answered. With that, I'm going to close this meeting. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate the update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all.